Hello and welcome to the World Today, everyone. I'm Richard Ntai, Nairobi. Let's begin with our top story. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arrived in Beijing, China through Saturday. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says Starmer's visit is in the interest of both countries and will contribute to peace and stability around the world.
The current international situation is characterized by complex and volatile changes. Maintaining communication and strengthening cooperation between China and the UK is in the common interest of both peoples and conducive to promoting world peace, stability, and development. Prime Minister Starmer's visit to China is the first by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. During the visit, Chinese leaders will hold talks and meetings with him and have in-depth issues of common concern. Prime Minister Starmer will also visit Shanghai. China is willing to take this visit as an opportunity to enhance political mutual trust with the UK, deepen practical cooperation, jointly open a new chapter in the healthy and stable development of China-UK relations, and work together to make due efforts and contributions.
So how have China-UK relations evolved in recent years? Let's take a closer look.
When people talk about bilateral ties, they often focus on politics. But if you look at the data, the real story might surprise you. In recent years, China and the UK quietly set a number. Let's have a look. First, investment. In 2024, the UK became Europe's largest source of foreign direct investment into China, ranking third globally. And in 2025, UK investment into China grew another 19.3% year-on-year. At 2025 China International Fair for Investment, the largest ever business delegation, with over 100 companies attending. Then there's finance. London is now the world's largest offshore RMB trading hub outside China. RMB trading volume in London jumped by 43% in 2024, with cross-border RMB transactions up more than 20% global. London is one of its main gateways. Also, in April 2025, China successfully launched its first ever green sovereign bond on the London Stock Exchange and raised $826 million, highlighting the country's ambition to bolster its environmental credentials to investors. In October 2025, a Chinese cargo ship completed the first ever China-UK commercial voyage via the Arctic route from Ningbo to Felixstowe in just 20 days. That halved delivery time to Europe compared with traditional sea routes, and is even a week faster than rail. Basically, it's lower costs, higher competitiveness. Last but not least, education. In 2025, China became the largest source of international students in the UK, with over 200,000 Chinese students currently studying there. An exchange goes both ways. Between 2013 and 2024, 50,000 UK students studied in China, long-term or short-term. Add to that culture exchanges, film premieres, and joint historic commemorations, and you get something deeper, real human connection. From Arctic routes to financial hubs, from ballrooms to classrooms, China with more dialogue and exchanges on the horizon. Perhaps the most interesting milestones are not behind us, but still waiting ahead.
U.S. President Donald Trump says another military armada is on its way to the Middle East. This comes as tensions rise between Iran and the U.S. with multi-day military exercises in the region. The U.S. has deployed thousands of troops and major assets to the region in recent weeks, including the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, which arrived with its strike group on Monday. The UN is urging maximum restraint to avoid an escalation.
The Secretary General is very concerned indeed about the reported military buildup in the Persian Gulf region. Again, the Secretary General calls for maximum restraints and encourages all actors to refrain from any actions that will further conflict in the escalation in the wider region. He remains convinced that all concerns regarding Iran are best addressed through dialogue, through diplomacy and negotiations. And in this regard, he welcomes all efforts aimed at regional de-escalation, steps to diffuse tensions and strengthen regional confidence.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says he welcomes any process that would prevent conflict, provided it stays within international law. He made the comment during a phone call with Saudi Crown Prince, and the Saudi leader assured Iran that Riyadh would not allow its airspace or territory to be used for military action against Tehran. The United States, United Arab Emirates, has also issued a similar pledge. Danish Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen have met German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Berlin. During the meeting, Merz reaffirmed Berlin's solidarity with Denmark and Greenland and pledged greater efforts to strengthen European security within NATO. It follows weeks of diplomatic tensions over the U.S.'s last week. Trump withdrew tariff threats and ruled out a forced takeover, but the dispute has opened a rift between the U.S. and Denmark, both founding members of NATO. European nations are now intensifying efforts to reduce dependence on the U.S. Later today, Fredrickson and Nielsen are scheduled in Paris. In other significant news, the Deputy Chief Minister of India's Maharashtra state, Ajit Pawar, has been killed along with 4 others after their chartered plane aircraft crashed in Bajaj reports from Mumbai.
Wednesday morning brought the shocking news that Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar died in a plane crash at around 8:45 a.m. Pawar was en route to his political stronghold of Baramati, with early reports suggesting that the aircraft killing all 5 people on board. Visuals from the crash site show the wreckage completely gutted by fire. Ajit Pawar was a towering figure in Maharashtra politics, a state known as the industrial and financial hub of India. A 7-time member of the Legislative Assembly, he was widely recognized and he held the post of Deputy Chief Minister 6 times under various alliances. Now, news of his sudden passing has prompted an outpouring of condolences across political parties, including from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. While his death will have significant implications for regional politics, an investigation that aims to determine the cause of this devastating accident. Radhika Bajaj, CGTN, Mumbai.
And staying in India, health authorities there and neighboring countries are stepping up precautions after confirmed cases of the deadly Nipah virus in East. They say at least 5 Nipah virus infections were confirmed in West Bengal, including among health care workers. Nearly 100 close contacts have been ordered to isolate. Patients have been admitted to hospital in and around Kolkata. 1 person is reported in critical condition. The outbreak has Thailand has begun screening arrivals from West Bengal. Nepal and Sri Lanka have strengthened health checks at airports and border crossings. So far, no cases have been reported outside India. A severe winter storm in Afghanistan has killed at least 61 people and injured 110 others. The National Disaster Management Authority says more than 450 homes have been destroyed or badly damaged. To see the human impact firsthand, Zamaralaya Basin traveled to the Shak district of Maidan Wardak. Let's take a look.
The destruction of homes has left hundreds of families exposed to subsidence. Authorities say many deaths are due to roof collapses and frostbite.
Our initial figures show extensive damage. 61 people have lost their lives, 110 other were wounded, and in total 458 homes are fully or partially.
I visited Maidan Wardak province to assess the situation after heavy snowfall, where thick snow on the main highway disrupted daily movement and left vehicles struggling to pass. Village roads were completely snow-covered and slippery, making travel. The ongoing snowfall blocked access to remote areas, limiting our movement. Our vehicle got stuck in the middle of the way several times.
It makes it really difficult for us to move on, but we will keep going and see how far.
After hours of difficulty, we reached Karakat village in the Abkazar area of Chak district, Maidan Wardak. where residents are suffering from house damage and avalanches. The village lies at the edge of Chak district, surrounded by mountains.
Increases the risk of avalanches. The danger is higher at night, which can surprisingly increase the risk of fatalities.
An avalanche destroyed 3 houses, 2 of them severely. I am in awe of the bravery of the woman who managed to save herself and her 2 children.
Heavy snowfall has destroyed several houses and buildings along the route, causing significant damage and hardship for local residents.
Most houses and shops here are built with mud. This shop collapsed under the weight of snow. One resident lost his life on the way due to snow-blocked roads.
As Afghanistan braces for more precipitation in the forecast, the race is on to reach the isolated, protect the vulnerable, and prevent this winter crisis from deepening further in a nation where more than half the population will need human assistance.
Numerous villages are cut off. Temperatures are plunging, and for the families already stretched to the limit, this is a crisis within crisis. This is Mariala Basin, CGTN, Maidan Wardak province, Afghanistan.
And right back to our top story, British Prime Minister at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Qiang. The visit will run till Saturday and is the first by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. China's foreign ministry says President Xi Jinping will meet with Starmer. Starmer will also meet with Premier Li and top legislators in exchanging views on bilateral ties and issues of common interest. The British Prime Minister will also meet leaders in Shanghai. Well, that is it for this edition of The World Today. I'll be back shortly with more news from the continent in Africa Live. Thanks for watching. Fears grow of an imminent escalation of violence in South Sudan, with civilians at risk of being denied aid and medical care. We look at efforts to foster peace in the eastern DR Congo as the world marks first International Day of Peaceful Coexistence. And how Kenyans are responding to new weight loss options after the WHO adds weight loss injections. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Nipah, live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at other stories making headlines this hour. Coming up in business, grades the country's credit ratings. And in sports, Morocco's AS FAR club prepared to take on Arsenal in the inaugural FIFA Women's Champions Cup. Once again, a very warm welcome. Keir Starmer has arrived in Beijing for an official visit at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Qiang. The visit will run till Saturday and is the first by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. China's foreign ministry says President Xi Jinping will meet with Starmer. Legislator Zhao Liji, holding talks and exchanging views on bilateral ties and issues of common interest. The British Prime Minister will also meet leaders in Shanghai. President Xi Jinping has replied to Zimbabwe's National Liberation War veterans hands with Africa to build an all-weather China-Africa community with a shared future for the new era. He noted that the veterans devoted themselves to national liberation and forged a profound friendship with China. 2026 marks the 70th anniversary of China-Africa diplomatic relations and people exchanges. China has always been a reliable partner and will carry forward traditional friendship for a brighter future in China-Africa relations. In their letter, the veterans thanked China for supporting Zimbabwe's national liberation and pledged to advance. And to South Sudan now, where aid agencies are warning that renewed fighting could cut off aid and medical care to thousands. This comes after the government ordered civilians and aid groups to leave opposition-held areas in Jonglei state ahead of a military operation. In Jonglei have already displaced around 180,000 people and are threatening the fragile 2018 peace deal that ended years of civil war. CGTN's Sharon Baranga reports.
The South Sudanese government insists that its military offensive is necessary. People's Liberation Movement in opposition and protect civilians, but the violence is threatening to unravel a fragile peace deal.
With imminent start of operation during peace, all civil population in SPLA control areas of Maternal will quietly evacuate for safety to government control areas as soon as possible.
The fighting is putting the 2018 peace agreement, which ended a brutal 5-year civil war, at serious risk, although the government says it's still committed to the process.
The government reiterates its commitment to fully implement the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict.
We are not at war, and I said this during my interview with the BBC this morning. SPLA-IO, the spokesperson, said they are advancing toward Juba, so we are only stopping the advance of the SPLA-IO, because we also have the right of self-defense, and therefore in the process. You will see us fighting to make sure that we stop the advancement. But the country is not in war. We are not in war.
But it's the civilian population that is bearing the brunt of the violence. Doctors Without Borders is warning that dwindling medical supplies in conflict zones could soon leave thousands.
Operating what is called on remote in the area where we cannot access. But the problem is that we cannot resupply a hospital. So once the stock will be over, if we have no access and if we are not able to provide new supply, medical supply there, then it will be what we have.
The UN also echoed concerns over the dire humanitarian situation. The ongoing violence is not just a military threat, but also a public health crisis, with critical services on the brink of collapse.
Even now, as we speak today, we are 5 years ago. We are in a situation where the peace agreement is in threat. And when every stakeholder understands that keeping this peace agreement as the center of all our actions and try to implement it despite all the difficulties, that's the only way forward. But despite that, in more ways than one.
With national elections planned for later this year, observers fear renewed fighting could further destabilize the country. Sharon Baranga, CGTN.
Well, for more on this story, this developing story, here's our correspondent, Patrick. Patrick, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. First things first, tensions seem to be escalating in South Sudan. What's the latest on the evacuation orders for Jonglei State? What do we know?
People we've talked to in Jonglei, including members of the civil society and some normal, ordinary South Sudanese citizens, many people are leaving. Some people are going to the cattle camps. The cattle camps are normally far away from villages that are preparing to fight. The other people have crossed into Ethiopia now, going as refugees, and many people are struggling to actually take away with them the elderly and the children who are not able to really walk. A very painful experience because at least due to the relative peace that has been in the country, they had tried to do some farming, they had harvested some few food crops, but now they're leaving them behind, just leaving to go to protect them.
All right, we apologize. See if we can reconnect with Patrick a little later in the program. In the meanwhile, let's move on to other stories making headlines. Opposition forces in South Sudan have captured several towns in Jonglei State over the past few months and are threatening to march on the capital, Juba. Jonglei is such a strategic security and economic hub.
Jonglei State has become the epicenter of continued fighting in South Sudan. Located in the east along the border with Ethiopia, Jonglei is the largest of South Sudan states with more. A 2023 census shows the state has a population of about 791,000 people out of a total national population of 12 million. Since South Sudan gained its independence from Sudan in 2011, it's been political violence. However, the UN says the latest clashes between the South Sudan People's Defense Forces and the Sudan People's Liberation Army in opposition are some of the deadliest since 2017. Fighting known as the White Army, with reported ties to the opposition, captured a military base in the northeastern town of Nasser in Upper Nile State. Mashar was later suspended and arrested over his alleged involvement and charged with treason and crimes against humanity. Since then, the fighting has escalated. A few weeks ago, opposition forces captured the town of Pajut in North Jonglei. Last week, they threatened to advance on the capital, Juba. The UN said civilians have been displaced in these latest hostilities. So why is Jonglei State so important? First, Bor is only about 200 kilometers from the country's capital, which means that Juba is vulnerable if Jonglei falls. And as important owned oil company estimates there are reserves of up to at least 3.5 billion barrels of oil in Block B within Jonglei state. The UN's calling on the political establishment in South Sudan to re-engage and protect the 2018 peace deal in a out civil war. Bobert Nagila, CGTN.
All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Patrick Oyet in Juba. Patrick, if you can hear me, thanks for standing by. Back to what we were talking about, it seems that there has been an escalation in South Sudan. What's the latest on the evacuation order?
Yeah, I was saying earlier that many people have left the areas. Some people have crossed to Ethiopia, where they have gone now as refugees, struggling, of course, to carry the elderly people, struggling the little harvest they had, because when there was relative peace, at least some people farmed. They have left this behind. They have gone. Some youth have moved to the cattle camps, because the cattle camps are normally far away from villages. They hope they will be safer there. And there's a lot of suffering. There are some people who have moved to the UN to camp there. So people are moving away. This is what civil society groups and some ordinary South Sudanese people in Jonglei state are telling us.
Patrick, is there hope that an all-out confrontation between the government forces and fighters loyal to dialogue? I guess that's the all-important question now.
Yes. Here in South Sudan, the call is all about dialogue. The church is calling for dialogue. The Muslims are calling for dialogue. The calling for dialogue. IGAD, of course, is the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, has the special envoy for South Sudan, who is here this week meeting with officials, and his call has been on dialogue. The United Nations is saying it is not just that dialogue is an option. It is the only situation that war is not an option. It can never solve problem. It has been tried several times and it has never solved the problem. So many South Sudanese people hope the only way out is for the political parties, political groups to dialogue, because the problems that are happening in Jonglei and other disagreement or politicians in the capital, Juba. If the politicians in Juba can dialogue and come together, all these problems can be resolved.
All right, Patrick Oyet live for us in Juba. Thanks for that. The world is celebrating the very first International Day of Peaceful Coexistence today. A one-of-a-kind ceremony was held to foster peace in the rest of East. King of the Bukuma chiefdom gathered his local leaders, representatives of non-indigenous communities, and other community members to discuss various issues, including tribal discrimination and peaceful coexistence among communities.
On the royal hill of Buhimba in Nyarigongo territory of North Kivu, a steady stream of drumbeats welcomes the king's guests. They stream in from all the villages in the Bukumu chiefdom to heed the king's call. Flanked by guardians of customs clad in white attire, he expressed his desire to foster peaceful coexistence.
I, King Kahembe IV, continue the culture of King Kahembe I. My primary role, my very first role above all else, even before my political role, is to ensure the continuity of the customs and culture of unity. It is unity and love that will bring us development. I have convened this meeting in order to ensure the continuity of these customs.
During the gathering, attendees shared the king's traditional wine as a symbol of their allegiance to his vision of unity and rejection of divisive politics. The audience in Bukumu expressed optimism about a future free from ethnically motivated conflict.
The king has just spoken to us against tribalism, because before there was tribal discrimination, but now we praise God because our king is fighting this tribal discrimination. No longer all communities are living together in harmony and love, because our king wants us all to be united, so together we can combat tribalism.
There has been a growing call for peaceful coexistence between communities in the region. Religious leaders called for peace during a recent funeral ceremony for victims and M23 rebels in Masisi.
With pain in my heart, I ask Muslims and non-Muslims, all Congolese people in general, to make a great effort to fight tribalism, because discrimination and tribalism will lead us into great danger. Look, have mercy on the souls of our dead. We implore you, Muslims and non-Muslims, to love one another, to accept one another, to unite so that we may be accepted before God in peace.
The mineral-rich East has been plagued by groups compete with the central government for power and control. However, local leaders hope that their call to peace will help restore some harmony in their communities. Crystal Onkeo, CGTN.
Here in Kenya, worsening drought conditions across arid and semi-arid lands in the north. The Drought Management Authority has put about 10 counties on alert following the failed 2025 short rains. In Mandera County in particular, the alarm phase is one step short of an official emergency. CGTN Sophia Shimachero reports.
Lie bare. Animal carcasses litter the landscape. This is the situation in Mandera along Kenya's borders with Ethiopia and Somalia. The region has seen no rain since last May, and as each day goes by, losses continue to pile up on the pastoral community here.
Our lives are in great danger. Initially, we had cows and goats which we relied on for our livelihood, but as you have seen here, I have lost around 28 livestock collectively.
Here
alone, I have lost 75 gadud. I have been moving by foot, and I am not well health-wise. My head is in severe pain.
Communities are forced to trek up to 30 kilometers to water truck points. And even though they have to just
we are very happy today. We were very thirsty and we had no water, so we are really grateful for this water bowser truck.
Children are bearing the brunt of the drought. At this hospital in Banisa, an influx of pediatric ward.
For now, children are not even getting adequate diets daily. They can even get one. They can even take one food group per day. Yeah, because of this drought, they cannot even afford. They only depend on camel milk and milk at all for now.
The National Drought Management Authority says several other counties in the normal phase are also showing deteriorating trends, raising the likelihood of a worsening situation during the January to March 2026 dry season. Aid groups have been working to intensify emergency interventions to prevent the total collapse of livelihoods in the region. Sophia Shimachero, CGTN.
Time now for a short break. We shall reset and return with more Africa Live. Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for staying with us. Nigeria is battling a maternal health crisis with thousands of pregnant women dying every year. Health and women's rights advocates say cultural and among the main reasons behind it. And CGTN's Tessa McKenday reports.
Sarah Salfa is raising her granddaughter alone. Her daughter died 2 years ago during childbirth after failing to get the care she needed. She says life since then has been a daily struggle. struggle.
Somebody that we don't even know, and they have children. She has her first child, the second child, then God couldn't allow us to see the child she died off. And I took the responsibility as the mother. For me, as an old woman like this, starting with a very kid, very small baby, I'm not finding things easy in the night. A lot of complaints, the child will just be crying, you don't even know where to start.
Like Sarah's daughter, many women need families to cope on their own. According to the UN, 1 in every 100 pregnant women in Nigeria dies during labor or shortly thereafter. Nigeria routinely ranks as one of the countries with the highest maternal mortality rate in the world, but many say these deaths blame poor antenatal attendance, delayed care, and restrictions placed on women's access to medical services for their deaths.
Most people also ignore antenatal care. Those are risk factors for maternal mortality. Women that are giving birth to these children coming with disability, being educated to take common folic acid they can get from a chemist. Some men don't even allow their wife to go for antenatal care. There are also some religions that don't allow other doctors, personnel to touch their wife because they are of opposite sex.
Gender rights advocates say the crisis is of maternal deaths to less than 70 per 100,000 births by 2030. But gender advocates say Nigeria will struggle to meet that target without changing attitudes and beliefs around women's health.
There are men that believe, even if they have one wife, they believe another. So it just puts us in a place of lack of emotional connection, lack of empathy to the situation. We need to share our stories with each other. Then as activists, as advocates, as media people, we need to push out there to gain that traction and then for something to be done.
The government says it has recruited about 2,500 community health workers to promote basic care during pregnancy. It has also set aside more than $150 million to strengthen primary health care centers nationwide.
Environmental activists in the capital of the DRC are fighting to save one of the few remaining baobab trees in the city center. The tree was recently at risk of being cut down to make way for a new building until activists petitioned the government. CGTN's Chris Ochum.
This imposing baobab tree standing in Kinshasa's Gombe suburb has become the focus of a growing environmental battle. The land it stands on was reportedly sold to a private developer who recently sent people to cut it down. Jean Mangalibi, a nature lover, mobilized fellow activists to save the tree.
We have created a platform about the baobab to share ideas with politicians on how we can make Congo better. Our economy. The best place to discuss these ideas is under the baobab. So we have filed a petition about the baobab tree, and we will do everything to save it.
The activists accuse officials at the DRC state-owned transport company of illegally selling the land. The government has not responded to the accusation, but the construction project has now been put on hold. This has come as a relief to some of the locals working near the tree.
The fruit of the baobab tree is used to make traditional medicine and juice. It's a very important tree to us.
Kinshasa still has baobab trees on the outskirts of the city, but this one is different. It's the only remaining baobab in the historic city center, and locals say past leaders once used it as a meeting place.
Kinshasa has a significant of high-rise buildings over the past decade, driven by a growing population and the demand for commercial and residential buildings. Many trees have been cut down in the process. Environmentalists are now calling for the protection of this baobab that has been here for decades.
They want authorities It is environmental conservation.
The baobab tree has got a positive, let's say, impact on the environment because the baobab tree absorbs, let's say, water. The baobab tree also absorbs a huge amount of water, all right? And the baobab tree has got an advantage to have a long life, okay, if we compare to other trees, all right? And by cutting the baobab trees, okay, it's not a good thing.
As Kinshasa continues to expand, environmentalists say is about more than greenery. It's about history, culture, and what the city chooses to preserve as it grows. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
As urbanization emerging as a regional frontrunner in smart city development, placing smart transport at the heart of its urban strategy. The country is reportedly investing heavily in intelligent traffic systems, data-driven public transport, and major rail projects to improve mobility.
Morocco is ramping up investment in large-scale mobility infrastructure, with railway projects at the center of its urban transport strategy. These projects are designed to ease congestion, improve daily commuting, and strengthen connectivity across the country's.
His Majesty the King, may God assist him, also presided on Wednesday, September 24th, at the prefecture of the Hey Hassini district in Casablanca over the launch of major structuring railway projects with a significant impact on mobility with Greater Casablanca, with a total cost of 20 million.
Authorities are upgrading railway stations and advancing plans to extend the high-speed rail line, boosting intercity mobility and easing pressure on road networks.
The ministry has a vision that includes several priorities, notably upgrading a number of railway stations along of a high-speed train. It will at least reach Marrakesh.
Cities such as Casablanca, Rabat and Marrakesh are deploying smart traffic systems using sensors, AI and cameras to manage traffic in real time, adjusting accessibility and road safety.
The city is smarter, public transport is smoother, better and faster.
AI-assisted cameras, sensors and systems have transformed traffic in the city, cutting edge technological and sustainable solutions have made our commutes better.
Public transport networks are also benefiting from data-driven planning, with city authorities using real-time information to better manage buses, trams and key transport corridors, particularly during peak hours.
Morocco's smart city development objectives include but are not limited to Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh and Tangier. Morocco holds ambitions to become a regional frontrunner in these projects.
Officials say Morocco's smart city push extends beyond flagship projects in Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh and Tangier. There are also plans to expand to additional cities as the country steps up preparations for co-hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Experts say the massive tournament will be a major boost to the country and act as a catalyst to accelerate digital mobility and urban innovation nationwide. Aden Shawishi, CGTN.
The World Health Organization has added weight loss injections to its essential medicines list for the treatment of obesity. It has also issued guidelines advising that the drugs be used in conjunction with diet, exercise, and counseling. This comes as demand for the injections gains popularity as a quick weight loss solution. And as Critical Onkeo reports, doctors are warning users to follow medical guidance in order to mitigate adverse effects.
An acrimonious relationship with the scale is something that Murugi Munyi, a popular Kenyan influencer, podcaster and content creator, can relate to.
From as young as 16, I can remember being on a weight loss journey. I have been overweight probably my whole life.
Across town, Wangari Kuria recounts her own struggle.
I've taken a balloon, the one you swallow, a gastric balloon, so that it helps you not eat as much. I have sewn my teeth together from a dentist so that you just eat liquids. I have done dieting, I've done keto diet, carnivore diet, I have done gym, I have done extensive things.
These two women are among the growing population fueling the demand for weight loss injections known as GLP-1 drugs in Kenya. Murugi gets her injections from a hospital based here in the capital.
I saw so many people have been on this drug, and even people who had been struggling with weight loss for a really long time had seen success with it. And I was like, you know what, I want to give this a try. And I get an injection weekly. And I have lost a lot of weight.
Kuria does her own injections.
In September, I started my journey after I traveled to the States and realized there is a solution. So when I came into the country, I bought my first quick pen and I started my journey.
The Kenya Pharmacy and Poisons Board has warned against unsupervised off-label use of semaglutide for weight loss due to serious health risks. This warning has not deterred its use, but it has encouraged many people to get their injections in medical facilities.
Generally, the number of clients we see ranges from around 50 to around 100 patients in a month span. We have a lot of female patients who are struggling with PCOS, infertility, hypertension, diabetes. Those are the kind of profiles we see day in, day out.
Specialists say not everyone qualifies for the injections, and screening is crucial before treatment can begin.
Maybe they have psychological issues, so we see how is your kidney, how is your liver, before we start anyone on any SAGE treatment.
Health practitioners stress the importance of medical supervision.
Well, the main challenge we have as medical practitioners is control or regulation of the drug. Because with the cost, there tend to be a lot of counterfeits. So people want to bring cheaper drugs. The other thing that will be a problem is dosing.
Meanwhile, injection use is projected to increase.
Like now, it's estimated about 28% of the adult population is either overweight or obese. Women making up to 13 to 14% of the same, and men about 3.5 to 4% of that number.
Some weight loss injection users say they have faced criticism for their choice, but health experts say that it is a lifeline for specific types of patients.
It's not a drug for lazy people. They have tried a diet, they have tried to exercise, even going to the gym, amongst other things. There's also a genetic predisposition, it could be hormonal issues, so the drug helps you to control those things.
There have been reports of adverse effects of these drugs. Novo Nordisk, the Ozempic drug maker, is facing mounting lawsuits in the US, where hundreds of users have sued, alleging side effects like stomach paralysis, vomiting, and sudden vision loss. Kenyan users say they've experienced constipation and mild nausea, diarrhea, slight headaches, appetite suppression, vomiting, palpitations, and even hair loss. Specialists say that while a few side effects are expected, there's little cause for alarm when taking the drugs under the guidance of a qualified doctor.
In our practice, it's still rare, still also globally still a rare complication. But how do we mitigate such side effects? One, I'll say, before you start, get it prescribed from a professional who knows what they're doing, either an endocrinologist, a diabetologist, or ourselves who are obesity specialists.
According to the WHO guidelines for treating obesity, the injection should be used along with other behavioral therapies like exercise, diet, and counseling. It states the treatment is limited to adults and not suitable for pregnant women, and warns that medication alone is not enough to solve the obesity problem. The guidelines also stress the importance of fair access to GLP-1 therapies and the prepping of health systems for the use of these medicines. It warns that without deliberate policies, access to the drugs could worsen already existing health gaps. Crystal Onkeo, CGTN.
Welcome into our business segment. Ratings agency Moody has upgraded Kenya's long-term credit ratings to B3 from CAA1 for both local and foreign currency, including senior unsecured debt. The outlook is now stable. According to its latest statistics, the upgrade was prompted by Kenya's foreign exchange reserves, which rose to $9.2 billion at the end of 2025. East Africa's biggest economy returned to the international capital markets last year with 2 Eurobond issuance totaling $3 billion. Moody's said the move also reflects improved domestic financing conditions. It pointed to lower borrowing costs and strong investor demand for government securities, which the agency says have enhanced Kenya's ability to meet fiscal needs locally, reducing reliance on external borrowing. And moving on, the International Monetary Fund has approved the 6th and final review of Zambia's extended credit facility program. This paves the way for a final disbursement of about $190 million, bringing total support. Well, welcome into Sport on Africa Live with me, Richard Todd. We start with women's football, where Morocco's AS FAR club has arrived in London ahead of the inaugural FIFA Women's Champions Cup. They will face Arsenal in Wednesday's semifinals match. The club qualified for the competition after defeating Cote d'Ivoire in ASEC Mimosas 2-1 in the finals of the CAF Champions League. Mohamed Amin Aliou's side has been crowned African champions not once but twice, winning the continental title for the first time in 2022 and again last year. In addition to winning the 12 Moroccan Cup titles, the Rabat outfit are the most successful club in their league history, with 12 titles in the last 13 seasons. Now we head to the UEFA Champions League, and defending champions PSG will host Newcastle United in the last match of the league phase, with an automatic spot on the round in the round of 16 on the line. PSG is currently in 6th place and Newcastle in 7th. Both teams have 13 points from 7 matches with identical goal differences, but the French defending champions have scored more goals. PSG suffered their second defeat in the league phase in their 2-1 loss to Sporting CP last week. The League One powerhouse will be boosted by the return of right back Achraf Hakimi. Newcastle, on the other hand, will be without Joe Linton, while Captain Bruno Guimaraes is expected to rejoin the squad. PSG coach Luis Enrique considers the match a must-win, while his opponent Eddie Howe also stressed its importance.
Nosotros si ganamos, seguro pasamos el...
If we win, we surely go through 6th or 7th among the first 8, but I would be happy to lose or draw and go through at 15th place like last year. And if you tell me that I go through in 15th place and we're going to win the Champions League, because the real Champions League begins with the knockout rounds. We in the knockout rounds are an incredible team, and we're going to show it.
Experience for everybody, but we want to win. I think we're conditioned to think that way.
Elsewhere, Real Madrid will be away to Benfica, hoping to secure 3 points in their final group stage match to finish in the top 8. Real head into the fixture on the back of a commanding 6-1 victory against Monaco last week, which moved them to 3rd in the standings with 15 points. Each other ahead of the time.
For us, it's an extremely important match. We want to be in the top 8, so we need to get 3 points against a Greek team. Even if they come with a younger side, they still have the best possible leader. I've already warned the players about how difficult the match will be.
Al mejor líder posible.
The big teams, the great players. Teams to have a consistent stability that allows them a different kind of approach. You have to go all in.
Home against Karat. At home against Copenhagen as Juventus travel to Monaco. Dortmund hosts Inter Milan, and Manchester City take on Galatasaray at the Etihad. The Olympic torch relay passed through biathlon and cross country to the Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. The relay made its way through the Antholz Anterselva Biathlon Arena, located at an altitude of 1,600 meters near the Austrian border. The 51st stage of the relay began earlier in the day. Dolomites. Along the route, the Olympic flame passed through alpine villages and mountain landscapes. The stage concluded in Bolzano, where a cauldron lighting ceremony was held. On Wednesday, the Olympic flame will continue its journey, including an opening ceremony on February the 6th. Now, with just 9 days from the start of the Winter Olympics, International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry has arrived at the Olympic Family Hotel in Milan. She shared her excitement ahead of the competition that was.
We're very excited to finally be here in Milano Cortina, boots on the ground, feeling very excited about that, and can't wait to get started with everybody. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing you over the next couple of days.
And on to the Australian Open we go, where world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz charged into the semifinals for the first time in his career with an impressive straight sets victory over local favorite Alex de Minaur. The gulf between the two became apparent as Alcaraz won a hard-fought first set 7-5 when the Aussie clipped the net, and the 6-time Grand Slam champion dominated the second set and went on to break de Minaur to win it 6-2. Alcaraz's match point ace clinched a 6-1 third set victory. He improves to 6-love against de Minaur, having only dropped 2 sets against the Australian since their first meeting in 2022. Alcaraz will now take on last year's runner-up Alexander Zverev in the semifinals. Well, that is it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. For the team, I'm Richard Natal saying thank you so much for watching, and we'll have more Africa Live coming your way in 6 hours' time. So stay tuned and stay here on CGTN.